Hello, welcome today to our presentations. So together we'll be looking onto the ACP Agile Certified Practitioner, right, discussing chapter 1, Agile and principles and its mindset. So we're going to be looking onto the, in our calendar, three topics. We're going to be looking onto the Agile, defining what's Agile, history of Agile, Agile Manifesto, the four core values, right, of Agile Manifesto, and the Agile Manifesto being explained, 12 Agile principles, and once you take the chapter, we're going to be looking on to with us, right? We're going to be looking on to the declaration of dependencies, comparison between the waterfall and agile methods, agile methods, comparison between traditional waterfall using the spiral, right, and agile project management. And we're going to be looking on to the focusing on the areas of exam and their assessments. So when we look onto the realm of agile principles in software development, now agile it was called as a philosophy. It's being of a mindset of values and principles, and it is not a methodology at all, right? But it is used to agile to employ all the practices and the tools, right? And using the environment in order to have a close collaboration between the teams in order to have rapid delivery using the IID, Independent Creative Delivery, and to respond to the changes that are being triggered by the stakeholders. Now, the alternative method being used was the traditional waterfall using the sequential or the spiral waterfall of methodology methods. You have to note as well the agile, it is being for the Scrum, it takes 2 to 4 weeks. For the feature-driven, 1 to 2 weeks. And for the extreme programming, it takes 1 to 3 weeks, which we call them as being a time box to using the incremental, iterative incremental delivery. So by the incremental, right, you have a continuous feedback from the users, and from those feedback, you will be able to, right, refine the requirements to your system. Remember that Agile, it is being a lightweight compared to a heavyweight traditional waterfall in which it has an involvement of cross-functional teams, organized teams, and to deliver a high quality software. So when we look onto the evolvement of Agile, right, in 1990, right, we had a big proliferation of demands in the software system to manage every business needs. And at that time, we have the heavyweight traditional waterfall using the spiral, right? And in that time, they had to deliver in a week, in a month, in a year, or 2 years duration, and in which it takes a lot of withstanding in order to deliver a marketing campaigns, right, for the product or the service results. So first of all, the product being delivered, it might have a change request into it, and then it will have to wait for the stakeholders, right, to know where to fix those issues, and then you perform the marketing. But with the involvement of the Agile in 2001 and in 13 November 2001, right, by the 17 practitioners, right, they have evolved the what we call the agility and the agile. So those lightweight methodologies, right, they have been done by 17 practitioners in Agile at Snowbridge Lodgester Hotel, right? They had a meeting and they had to discuss the best practices, right, for having a mindset that it will deliver high quality software in a short time. Similarly, Toyota Production System in 1974, right? They had as well Edward Demond, right, who used the lean system in his production system of the cars production. He used the same point of eliminating waste, right, and having rapid iterations in order to deliver a quality. So at 13 November 2001 at Lodge Snowbird Sky Resort, the 17 advocates, the practitioners, they have built what we call the lightweight methodology in order to have a ground common software development. Their names, they were there. The 17s consisted of Ken Flick, Alistair Cockburn, and as well James Cregan, Robin Jeffers, Robert C. Martin, Jeff Sutherland, Mike Beadle, Ward Kungmahan, Jim Hismine, John Ken, Steve Miller, Dave Thomas, Aaron Venn, Beckham, Martin Flower, Andrew Hunt, and Brian Mark and Ken Scholar. So the manifesto that time, the agile, it was having a lot of names, right? Either they call it the method they need to use either agile or the lightweight or the adaptive. right, lately than it was used the Agile. Now, it comprised of many Agile methods such as the Scrum, the feature-driven, the DSDM, the Crystal family, the extreme programming, the feature-driven, the dynamic system development, okay? And it consisted of 4 core values and 12 principles, which we'll be looking into them. So in spite of the experience of the 17 practitioners, right, so they had to perform a Delphi technique in which they add all their ideas, but ideas being monitored by a certain moderator who selects the best idea and to put it onto the table. So they were looking onto an alternative solution to traditional waterfall, right? That will be able to have a good delivery for the customer satisfaction, building a good transparency, inspection, adaptations, right? And as well to have a quick feedback and to respond to the changes as well. So it focused on the 4 core values, right, and the 12 principles, okay? And the meeting, it has a significant impact on software development. So in the 2000 at Snowbridge, they were discussing as well the project management from an area. They were looking onto contract management from another area, the software development engineering from another area, corporate strategy, and as well many tools to be used. So the manifesto they had used, it says that we are not covering the best way of developing software by doing it to help others and to support them. So at the end of the day, we need to provide with a value. So in traditional waterfall, we used to look onto the process and tools. So instead of process and tools, we're going to be looking onto individual interaction. We're going to focus on working with individual interaction. Instead of building documents, comprehensive documentation such as the um, business specification documents, the SRS, the high level HLD, the lower level design, solution architecture, we're going to have a working software. So a customer keeps on, he likes, okay, there's nice to have the documentation, but we need at the end of the day a working software that we're going to be working on, we're paying for. Instead of contract negotiation, customer cooperation. Instead of following a plan, respond to the change. So those are the areas that we have been looking into individual interaction. And instead of having process and tools, working software instead of comprehensive documentation, customer cooperation instead of contract negotiation, and responding to the change instead of following to the plan. So the manifesto, right, was not a perspective, right? It was indeed powerful and team to focus, okay, onto the value. And the 4 core values also independent to go in hand by hand. So individual interaction, when you look onto it, so the value right here, it looks onto the collaboration to build in between the team, okay, instead of having a heavy process, okay. So the operational works on the contrast when you have manufacturing industry, software engineering, knowledge-based work, it cannot afford to undermine the power of collaboration and take into each others. So it's very important that in the industry to have the team to be working all together. And at the end of the day, we're looking on to deliver the projects, right? And in order to have the appropriate tools that will able to meet the customer requirements, okay, to perform a scope analysis and to deliver, okay, and troubleshooting the defects, okay. So it is assumes that we have a proof of concept, okay, face-to-face communication in between the teams and collaborations in between them. Now, working software over comprehensive documentation. Now, here you look onto the value is that you need to deliver, right, a measurement unit, right, that is known as usability. So the end user or the stakeholder at the end of the day, they need to have a running code that is being honest, trustworthy, honest, and that there is a product being delivered, something is being working. In traditional waterfall, the time would be spent onto the system analyst, right? And in order to analyze all of those requirements, okay, and which will take them a long of a time. Now, here we have as well the working software, right, over comprehensive documentation, okay. So working software, right, over comprehensive documentation. So instead of having a documentation, as we're stating that, so it's impossible to person to initially specify how a screen should be like perceived an end user. So if I give you a documentation on how things are going to be looking, it's nice on words, but at the end of the day, you need to look it on significant on the effort to be driven through providing with a working software with the features being able to be used. Okay. Right. So we need to deliver a working software that gives a confirmation. You're able to measure that there's a success, there's a quick feedback has been given. Okay. So you might have to, it's important to have a knowledge, okay, of the system, stick around to the product, maintain, support it, and to have an understanding of what has been delivered. Customer cooperation over contract negotiation. So it's very important right here, the practitioners to look on to work on, instead of keep on negotiating the contract bulletins, right, and to keep on having a conflict throughout those contracts. No, we need to have the stakeholders as being a partner to us. We are all working together in order to deliver a software at the end of the day. So here is a dialogue that has been undertaken in between a project management and the team, okay, customer and the project management in the event of change shown, okay. So you look right here that we have the customer saying that I reveal that we have to allow the entry of a negative interest rates, okay, to from the end. Could you handle this? Okay, okay. But you told me that the interest rates can only be positive values. Okay, yes, but then it will take like 6 months ago. Okay, the economic scenario has changed, and we don't anticipate it earlier. Oops, but that's too late. We have already frozen the requirements document, and they started with the independency. But I want to have a charge without that our software cannot be sent by operation. What is the best way to do? I suggest that there will be, okay, so here the product manager is saying that I suggest that we will be, so we must raise a change, okay, record the need in 2 weeks so we don't formally impact the assessments. So the client says, okay, so that's a long time working, how much it will close, okay, we will get back to you. The project management says, right, so so it's going to take a long approve to the change, okay, and then to be efficient, okay, yes, we're stick with to go with the update specification of the design document, and okay, okay, and reissue to a sign off, okay, I will try to do this and get it updated on the shortest time boxes and the best effort basis. So this is used in a traditional waterfall. You can see that communication going back and forth, in which it takes the project into loops and loops, right, in which you're able not to enter to the project in a traditional waterfall. So as we stated that in the customer cooperation, okay, so by nature, you need to have a collaboration in with the partners so that it makes it smooth easily for delivering and collaboration of delivering the software that satisfies the stakeholders. So when you look onto the responding to a change instead of following a plan, so the final value is that you have, in the fact, agile acknowledgement, embrace a change, okay? So here you need to be able to early even in the late development, you're able to respond to the changes. Again, you need to evaluate the scope and time budget, but since it's a small feature, right? So it will be able to replan it easily, to redesign it, to rebaselining it, and to either to deliver it in the most smooth way, right? So a fair amount of planning happens in just a time. We don't have to go through a deep rolling wave plan like we used to in the traditional waterfall. Development time box is being given a finite iteration, so there's a time for delivery that's being specified to the stakeholders. So when you look right here, the comparison in between the traditional and the agile, so in the change, here's the source, and we're looking here through the change, right? And then you have original plan, then you keep on replanning that goes, and then the original target, and you revisit the target. That's in a traditional waterfall. But look on the source speedy, right? Here, the course correction through rolling wave plan and continuous user feedback. So you have a feedback is being given on the features that's being built, and it's more flexible and more lighter and more easier. Now, when we look onto the The 12 principles, so we said that Agile it consists of 4 core values and 12 principles. So the first principle, it talks about delivering customer satisfaction is being the most important thing in the continuous delivery variable of a software. So it's very important that we deliver a value to the customer and the customer gets satisfied. So we're looking onto the VOC, voice of the customer. And in order to achieve that, you need to work together with the uh, through the agile with the iteration. It takes sprint from between 2 to 4 weeks, and in that case, you'll be able to deliver the satisfaction to the client based on the requirements being gathered and the requirements being delivered and being inspected in a short cycles as well as seen. Right. The second principle, it is welcome the change requirement, evolve in late software development and agile process harness of the customer competitive advantage. So again, we're looking on to the second part of the welcome and responding to the changes, even if in the late development. So here agile, since we're having a small features being produced, so it will be easily to be investigated, be tried by the customers or the stakeholders, and the vendor side will be able to respond to that change in a more faster and unique way. The third principle looks on working software, right, instead of couple of weeks, okay? So you deliver in a couple of weeks instead of couple of months with a preference of the shortest time scale, right? So the principle here looks onto the way that we're able to deliver a rapid iteration software, okay? And in that principle, we use what we call a fail fast. And fail fast, it means that you have what we call a spiral. You can use a sprint spiral is that you can perform a certain pilot, a test, right, on a certain iteration, and then you deliver and you see whether it works or fails. So you don't have to pay for the whole project. You're just putting for a sample project, right, for a simple spiral. You're testing and you're getting the feedback, right, through it. So if the customer does not like it, you're able to respond to change. Again, you did not spend the whole capital investment of the project. You have spent a very minute number. You're taking a trial, okay, in which you're able to recap to it. So as well, you can see that the agile methodology, right, it looks onto the duration, right, is that you deliver in a couple of weeks, right, that like what's spoken in the Scrum, which takes us to 2 to 4 weeks, or feature-driven 1 to 2 weeks, or extreme programming 1 to 3 weeks. So those are being considered as being a short life cycle delivery. The fourth principle looks onto the business people and the developer. They must work together, and that's a collaboration, face-to-face meetings, working together, and getting the deliverable as soon as possible. And people, right, so working together, so you can look on the communication, it will be enhanced, right, understanding of things, working as a team, thinking and brainstorming, will able to deliver it more easier. Okay. Now, the fifth principle talks about building a project around motivated individuals, give them the environment support they need to trust and to get the job done. So right here, the 17 practitioners, they look is that it's very important to have a healthy environment, and healthy environment that works with a collaboration, with a vision, and that you will be able to give a support to the team that they will be transparent, they will be having a trustworthy, they will be able to adapt to that environment, and they keep evolving with you on throughout the project. And then when we look onto the sixth principle, the most efficient and effective methods of conveying information is to within the development team is face-to-face conversation. So when you have the most build a rapid communication, when you have when you look onto it that facial expressions, 50% you're using 35% of your paralanguage, right? And using 15% of your of the pitch tone, right? So all of that, when you combine them all together in a co-location environment, right? Face-to-face communications will become more easy, will have a more understanding of it. Now, the seventh principle, right, it talks about the the working software is being the primary measure. So again, we will say that in order to have a baseline that able to say that I have succeeded is being your working software. So when the software works, it's a good proof of concept to the stakeholders that you have planned well, you have executed well, you have delivered a value. So this is being the primary measure of the progress. The eighth principle talks about agile process promotes sustainable environment, sponsor developer, and you should be able to maintain a constant place. Tiffany, since we have an adaptive environment, right? We have rapid iterations, and we have an environment that's being a stable environment. So those teams who have worked right onto in that environment, they will be adaptive to it. They will be able to deliver multiple projects in a similar fashion with quick and with having a challenge, a real challenge, right? So the ninth one, it talks about continuous attention to technical excellence and a good design is being. Now, when you have a model or a prototype being provided, right? So this is will, and you have a good expertise, you will be able to, for that model, to build a good quality technical, right, product that is being produced well, and it gives a good visual for the stakeholders to accept the product. Okay, so we're eliminating what we call a technical debt. Okay, so you will have a good structured code, you have a good structured design. Okay, you will be able as well to eliminate the financial debt that you might be accumulated or having a technical debt. Okay, now the 10th point is the principle. It talks about simplicity as being the art of maximizing the amount of work and not the work that is essential. So here the value, it looks that when you look onto the art of maximizing, okay, the work of which is not being essential, it means that we have the product backlog, right? We have all the features and they're being prioritized. Even when things become simple, you will be able to as well, beside working on the most prioritized activities, right, you're going to be working on the ones which they are not being as well essential because you have a simple way of process. You will be able to produce an MMF, minimum marketable features that will be able to be presented as a small piece of the product and they can be implemented and then they provide a value for the user and your marketing team will be able to promote it into the market. Now, the 11th principle looks onto the best architecture requirements and designs emerge from self-organizing team, and that's what we call creativity. Now, when you have a creative team in their rules, they will be able to produce from their own sets the best way, right, to perform design, the best way to perform the development, okay, providing with a value, a good architecture being presented, okay. So that will ease the way the work you are performing and the way you will be able to gradually enhance and to uh, produce what were quality to the team and the value. The 12th principle, okay. Now, when we look on the 12th principle, okay, so we're talking about the last one, which is uh, the architecture being provided, right, and the involvement of the design and the requirements, it will be from an organizing team to build their creative environment. So there is assumption important ones assume that the developer are good coming up with a simple design and also it initiate a capability to read and learn, okay, to refactor as needed. So you will be able to refactor your code, you will refactor your design, good underlying for non-functional requirements about usability, performance, reliability, and scalability. So again, you will be able to look onto the non-functional requirements, okay, and the functional requirements onto your project. So those are the 12 principles that have been explained by the Agile principles. Once you take the course with us, we'll be able to go through the declaration of dependencies and take more depth in details about the difference between the waterfall and the traditional waterfall using the spiral, right? And other techniques used, as well the difference between the adaptive environment, which is using the agile software. Hope this presentation was of well. We look forward to meet you for the agile principles and the rest of the chapters of the ACP examinations. This is Muhammad Ahmed Zaki. Thank you very much for your time. and hope to meet you soon.